The night was silent over the small human town of Maple Ridge. The stars glowed gently in the sky, when suddenly, one star began to move, brighter, closer, and faster. People thought it was a comet at first, until it stopped above the forest and slowly descended. The trees shook, a low hum filled the air. Then a soft blue light covered the hills. In the middle of the forest clearing, a tall silver ship landed with no sound. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, smooth and perfect. The animals ran away. Lights flickered on in the nearby houses. A few brave humans came out holding flashlights and cameras, whispering to one another. Then the ship's door opened with a hiss. From the bright mist stepped out an alien, tall, calm, and strangely human-like in shape, but his eyes glowed faint blue and his skin had a faint silver tone. He wore a long, dark coat that shimmered like starlight. His name was Commander Zorak, once one of the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. Zorak looked around quietly, his eyes studying the trees, the grass, the soft wind. He took a deep breath of Earth's air and whispered, "So this is peace." His voice was calm, filled with tiredness, but there was a strange warmth in it too. Within an hour, the whole town knew. An alien has landed. The news spread quickly through phones, radios, and social media. People gathered near the forest's edge. Soldiers and scientists were on their way, but Zorak didn't run or hide. He simply walked out of the forest holding nothing but a small metal cube in his hand. Reporters shouted questions. "Who are you? Why are you here? Is this an invasion?" Zorak stopped and looked at them quietly. Then, with a small smile, he said, "No invasion. No war. I am retired." Everyone stared in shock. "Retired? From what?" The alien continued. "I have chosen this planet, Earth, as my retirement home." His deep voice carried across the air. Some laughed, some gasped. Soldiers pointed their weapons, unsure if he was joking or dangerous, but Zorak's calmness made even the wind feel still. A few days later, after long talks with human leaders, the alien was allowed to stay. He bought a small wooden cabin near the edge of the forest. He wanted no guards, no servants, no technology. Just quiet, just Earth. Every morning he sat on the porch watching the sunrise. Sometimes children came close, curious but scared. He would smile and wave. "Don't be afraid," he'd say softly. His voice had a strange kindness that surprised everyone. The townspeople started calling him the alien retiree. Tourists came from far away to see him, but Zorak didn't mind. He answered their questions politely. When one reporter asked, "Why Earth? Out of millions of planets, why here?" He paused for a long time before replying. "Because humans remind me of something my people lost long ago," he said. That single line became famous across the world. What did he mean? What had his people lost? No one knew. One evening as the sun set, Zorak walked through the park. The laughter of children playing caught his attention. He stopped and watched them chase each other through the grass. Their laughter filled the air, bright and free. A small boy tripped and fell. Before anyone could move, another child helped him up, brushing off the dirt, smiling. Zorak's glowing eyes softened. So simple, he whispered to himself. So rare. He walked back to his cabin that night with a heavy heart. Inside, he looked at an old photo on his metal cube. It showed hundreds of alien soldiers standing in perfect lines, their faces cold and proud. He turned it off, sighed deeply, and looked out the window at the stars. "We forgot how to be alive," he murmured. But peace did not come easily. Not everyone trusted him. Some humans feared he might be dangerous. Others thought he was a spy. And out in the stars, his old empire watched him closely, confused by his strange choice. Still, Zorak remained calm. He started helping people in the town, fixing machines, teaching children about the stars, even planting trees near his cabin. Slowly, the people of Maple Ridge began to like him. One night, during a small gathering, an old man asked him, "Commander, are you happy here?" Zorak smiled softly, Happiness, he said, looking up at the night sky. It is a feeling I almost forgot existed. The old man nodded quietly. Then maybe you came to the right place. Zorak turned his glowing eyes toward the forest where fireflies danced among the trees. Perhaps, he whispered, this is what home feels like. But deep down, a shadow still followed him, a secret from his past, something that made him choose Earth for more than peace. Something he had not told anyone yet. And while he rested under Earth's stars far above the galaxy, unknown ships began to move again, searching for their missing commander. The mystery had only begun. Morning sunlight touched the trees around Zorak's cabin. The mist from the forest rolled like a slow river through the grass. Birds sang, and for the first time in years, the alien commander felt peace. He sat outside, holding a steaming cup of herbal tea, something a kind local woman had given him the day before. The air smelled of pine and smoke. He liked that smell. It was real, not like the filtered air of starships. Down the road lived Eli Carter, a middle-aged mechanic who fixed trucks and farm equipment. He had seen the alien on television, but never thought he'd live right next to him. When his generator broke one afternoon, he decided to walk over and ask for help. Zorak was standing near his porch, trying to fix a small drone that had stopped working. When Eli arrived, Zorak looked up, his glowing blue eyes calm and gentle. "Morning," Eli said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm Eli, your neighbor. My generator's dead. I heard you're good with machines." Zorak tilted his head slightly, curious. "Machines," he repeated softly. "Yes, I once worked with many." Eli smiled nervously. "Would you mind taking a look? I can pay you or maybe cook you something." Zorak shook his head. "No payment. Show me." They walked to Eli's house. The alien studied the generator carefully, his long silver fingers tracing the wires. With just a few touches, the machine hummed to life again. Eli's eyes widened. "You fixed it in 10 seconds. Zorak smiled faintly. It was only asleep. That was the beginning of their friendship. Over the next few days, Eli would bring food, sandwiches, soup, coffee, and sit with Zorak outside the cabin. They spoke of simple things: weather, stars, music, and the strange noises of night insects. Zorak listened closely, almost as if every small thing on Earth amazed him. One evening, Eli's little daughter Mia came running from their house with a plate of cookies. She was no older than 6. Her bright green eyes looked up at the tall alien without fear. "These are for you, Mr. Zorak," she said softly. "They're chocolate." The alien looked at the cookies as if they were treasures. "Chocolate," he repeated. "We do not have this in my world." "Then you can have mine," Mia said proudly. Zorak knelt down to her height, his metallic eyes glowing softer. "You are brave, little one." He took a small bite, and his expression changed, surprised, then amused. "Sweet," he said simply, "like kindness." Mia giggled. Eli smiled, watching his daughter and the alien share a strange moment of peace. But not everyone was happy about it. One afternoon, a group of alien visitors arrived in a sleek ship that hovered just above the field. They were journalists from different worlds, curious and mocking. They wanted to see the mad commander who had chosen to live among humans. When they approached his cabin, their cameras floated around him. "Commander Zorak," one of them said sharply. "Why disgrace your name by living with primitives?" Zorak stood quietly. Eli, who was nearby, clenched his fists, but the alien only smiled. "You call them primitive because they have less technology," he said, "but they have what our empires lost: hearts." The reporters laughed. "Hearts? You mean weakness?" Zorak's eyes flashed, but his tone stayed calm. "No, strength that needs no weapons." The visitors recorded his words, then left, whispering insults in their strange languages. Zorak turned toward Eli and Mia, who had been watching. He gave a small, sad smile. "They don't understand yet," he said softly. "But they will." That night, Eli found Zorak sitting outside, staring at the moon. Do you regret it? Eli asked quietly. Leaving your world behind? Zorak didn't answer right away. He watched the fireflies dance in the dark. My world forgot how to laugh, Eli, he finally said. They forgot how to forgive. Here I see it every day in small things, in children, in your family. You think your people are weak, but you're wrong. Eli nodded slowly. Maybe we just try to stay human. Zorak turned to him. Yes, he said with a faint smile. That is your greatest power. The days passed peacefully. Zorak helped repair town lights, water pumps, and broken radios. He never asked for anything. People began to trust him. Children would wave as he walked by. The alien who once commanded armies now fixed fences and shared tea with farmers. But deep inside he carried a weight, a memory he couldn't escape. At night he often stood near the forest looking at the stars. They'll come, he whispered. They always do. Eli once asked him, Who are you talking about? Zorak only replied, Old ghosts from the sky. One evening, while the town slept, a strange hum filled the air. Zorak looked up and saw something glowing far beyond the clouds, a faint shadow of a warship, large and cold. His eyes narrowed. He whispered to himself, They've found me. The next morning he acted normal, smiling at Mia and helping Eli fix a roof. But inside he knew the peace he had built might not last long. He had left war behind, but war had not left him. The night was cold and silent. A pale moon hung over Maple Ridge as Commander Zorak sat alone beside the dying campfire behind his cabin. The flames flickered weakly and their orange glow danced across his silver skin. In his hands he held a small round device. Old, cracked, and glowing faint blue. It was a memory sphere, a relic from his past. He pressed the center of the sphere. A beam of light burst into the air, forming a ghostly image. An army of alien soldiers standing on a burning planet, their armor shining like steel, their eyes empty. At the front stood Zorak himself, years younger, holding a war banner soaked in dust and blood. He stared at the vision quietly, his eyes full of sorrow. So many victories, he whispered, and not one worth remembering. The memory shifted. Planets burning, cities falling, screams fading into silence. Every world that resisted his empire had been crushed under his command. The galaxy had called him the unbreakable general. His enemies feared his name. His people worshipped him, but inside he was empty. He remembered the day it began to change. It was during the siege of Ragnar V, a war against a small colony that refused to join his empire. It should have been an easy victory. But that day, something unexpected happened. Among the chaos, a small human ship appeared, fragile, outdated, and burning. It was there to rescue survivors, not to fight. Zorak remembered watching on his command screen as the human ship lowered shields to protect even the enemy wounded. Madness, one of his officers said. They risk everything for their enemies. But Zorak couldn't look away. That single act, simple, human, and foolish, shook something deep inside him. When the battle ended, the human ship was gone, but its image stayed with him. He began to question everything. His empire called mercy weakness, but to him it suddenly looked like courage. He started noticing small things, soldiers laughing less, children being trained to fight, and his people losing all joy. He saw himself reflected in their empty eyes. Power had stolen something precious from them, something Earth still had. The campfire cracked, pulling him back to the present. He sighed and turned off the memory sphere, his expression heavy with guilt. Forgive me, he whispered to the stars. Just then he heard footsteps. Eli appeared, holding a lantern. Couldn't sleep? He asked softly. Zorak shook his head. No, my dreams are not peaceful. Eli sat down beside him. Bad memories? Memories, Zorak said quietly, of the things I wish I could forget. He stared into the fire. I led an empire that thought it ruled the stars. We took what we wanted. We silenced worlds, and when there were no more enemies left, we turned on each other. Eli listened silently. The alien's voice was deep but broken. Zorak continued, For 1,000 years I fought for power. And then one day I saw humans, fragile, short-lived, foolish, and yet I saw life in them. You fight, but you also forgive. You fall, but you rise again. You care even for strangers. My people forgot how to do that. He picked up a handful of earth soil and let it fall through his fingers. This world reminds me of what my heart once was. Eli nodded slowly. Maybe that's why you came here, to remember. Zorak looked up at the stars. Or to heal, he said softly. But I fear healing never comes without pain. Before Eli could reply, a faint rumble echoed across the sky. Zorak's eyes narrowed. They are close, he said under his breath. Eli frowned. Who's close? The ones I left behind. He stood, his tall frame glowing faintly in the moonlight. They will not understand why I came here. To them, peace is betrayal. Eli stood too, worried. Then we'll protect you, he said firmly. Zorak looked at him with a faint smile. Humans are always ready to stand for someone they barely know. That is what makes you powerful. But deep in the forest, something stirred, a low hum like an approaching storm. The night birds fell silent. Zorak turned toward the trees. They've found my signal, he whispered. They're coming. He turned to Eli, his voice suddenly urgent. If they land, promise me this, protect the people. I will not let them harm this place. Eli nodded. We'll stand with you. Zorak looked down at him, his eyes glowing brighter than before. You shouldn't, he said softly. But you will. Because you are human. He stepped toward the forest edge and raised his hand to the sky. A thin beam of light shot upward, a signal he had tried to hide but could no longer control. He closed his eyes. They know I'm here. Eli watched in fear as the sky shimmered. High above, among the stars, something moved, large and cold. Zorak turned back toward his cabin one last time. War, he whispered, always finds those who try to escape it. The wind blew out the fire, leaving only ashes behind. The morning sky above Maple Ridge looked strange that day. Birds flew in confused circles, dogs barked, and a low humming sound filled the air. The people of the town stopped what they were doing and looked up. The sun seemed to flicker behind a massive shadow, a shape so large it covered the clouds. Eli stepped out of his workshop, shielding his eyes. Zorak, he whispered. They're here. Above the town hovered a giant alien cruiser, dark gray and covered in glowing symbols. Smaller ships drifted beside it like silver insects. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Within minutes, every TV channel, every phone, every radar around the world was showing the same image. The ship that had come for Zorak. Zorak stood outside his cabin, staring at the sky. His face was calm, but his glowing blue eyes were heavy with sorrow. They found me sooner than I hoped, he said quietly. Eli ran to him. Who are they? My former soldiers, Zorak said softly. The empire I once led. Before Eli could respond, a beam of blue light shot down from the cruiser, and a small landing craft descended. It landed gently in the field nearby. The door slid open with a hiss, releasing a group of armored aliens. They marched in perfect rhythm, their movements sharp and mechanical. At the front was a tall officer wearing black armor. His eyes were like polished stone, cold and empty. Commander Zorak, the officer said in a deep metallic voice. By order of the High Command, you are to return at once. The humans gathered at a distance, watching nervously. Soldiers from Earth's army arrived too, forming a barrier, but Zorak raised a hand. Do not fight, he told them. They are not your enemies. Not yet, the officer frowned. You broke our code. You deserted your post. You left our empire without a leader. Zorak looked at him calmly. I left because I was no longer fit to lead. The officer stepped closer, anger flashing across his face. You abandoned glory for this dirt world. These creatures are beneath us. Eli clenched his fists, but Zorak remained still. Beneath us? He repeated quietly. No, they are what we were meant to become. The alien soldiers murmured in confusion. The officer's voice grew sharp. You speak like one of them. You shame your own kind. Zorak's gaze hardened. Then maybe shame is what we need. The officer signaled his troops. Arrest him. Before they could move, human soldiers stepped forward, blocking their way. Eli shouted, You're not taking him! The aliens raised their weapons. Zorak stepped between both sides, his voice deep and commanding. Enough! The sound of his voice alone made everyone freeze. Even the wind seemed to stop. If there is blood today, he said, let it be mine. I will not allow war here, the officer sneered. You think you can stop us, old commander? You've grown soft. Zorak looked him straight in the eye. Soft, yes, but wiser. The officer turned away. Then watch as we burn your peaceful world. Perhaps you will remember what power feels like. He raised his communicator, but before he could give the order, Zorak moved faster than any human eye could see. He extended his hand and a bright symbol appeared on his palm, his old command seal. The alien ships above suddenly froze in place. Engines died. Lights dimmed. Zorak's voice thundered not in anger but in authority. By the codes you still serve, I am your commander, and I forbid you to harm this planet. The officer's face turned pale. You wouldn't, Zorak's tone softened. I would. And I just did. The smaller ships trembled and then backed away, powerless under his override. The humans gasped. The Empire's warfleet, silent and mighty, now floated motionless in the sky. The officer fell to his knees, his voice shaking. You gave up everything for these humans. Zorak looked toward Eli and Mia, who stood watching near the fence. For them, he said softly, I gave up nothing. I found everything I lost. The officer lowered his head in shame, but before he could respond, Zorak's body wavered. His glowing eyes dimmed for a moment. Eli rushed to him. Zorak! What's happening? Zorak steadied himself. Using the command seal drains life. It was made for power, not peace. Eli's heart pounded. Then stop! You'll die! Zorak smiled faintly. Every warrior dies, but not every warrior truly lives. Above them, the fleet began to pull away, retreating slowly toward the stars. The officer gave one last look at Zorak before boarding his ship. You are no longer our general, he said bitterly. Zorak nodded. No, I am something better. As the ships disappeared, silence fell over the town. People began to cheer, but Zorak didn't move. He stood watching the sky where his fleet vanished, his expression unreadable. Eli stepped beside him. You saved us, he said. Zorak shook his head. No, Eli, you saved me. He looked at the horizon where dawn began to break. But peace always asks for a price, he whispered. And mine will soon come due. The sun rose, painting the sky gold. To the humans, it was a morning of victory, but in Zorak's heart, it was the beginning of farewell. The next day dawned quiet, but the air felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. The alien ships had left Earth's orbit, yet everyone sensed it wasn't over. Commander Zorak sat outside his cabin, his eyes dim and tired. The energy he had used to command the fleet had drained him deeply. Still, his mind was sharp and his heart restless. Eli arrived carrying breakfast. You need to eat, he said softly. Zorak looked up and smiled faintly. Thank you, my friend. But food will not heal what power has broken. Eli placed the tray down. You risked your life to stop them. You should be resting, not worrying. Zorak's gaze turned distant. They will return, he said quietly. Not with honor this time, but with fear. The High Command does not forgive defiance. They will come to destroy what I protected. Eli frowned. Then we'll face them together. Zorak shook his head slowly. This is not your fight, Eli crossed his arms. You chose to live among us. You became one of us. That makes it our fight now. Zorak looked at him for a long moment. Humans, he said softly, always running toward danger for someone they love. You remind me why I came here. That night, as the sun disappeared behind the forest, the sky flickered again. Only this time, darker and louder. Lightning-like beams cut through the clouds. Children screamed as tremors shook the ground. The alien fleet had returned 10 times larger than before. The townspeople gathered in fear, looking up as ships spread across the night like black wings. At their center, a massive warship descended. It wasn't a cruiser, it was a fortress, the pride of Zorak's old empire. Eli turned to Zorak. What do we do? Zorak stood slowly, his silver skin reflecting the flickering lights above. We stand. He walked to the middle of the street. His long coat fluttered in the wind. Around him, humans gathered, Eli, Mia, soldiers, farmers, and children. They stood beside him, trembling but refusing to flee. A voice echoed from the sky, booming through every speaker and every radio frequency. Commander Zorak of the Iron Dominion, it thundered. You are declared a traitor. Your protection of this primitive world is a crime. Surrender or witness its destruction. Zorak lifted his head. If peace is a crime, he shouted, then I am guilty. The ground rumbled. Huge alien drones landed across the fields, glowing weapons ready. But none of the humans ran. Eli stepped forward beside Zorak, clutching an old wrench like a sword. If you want him, Eli shouted, you'll have to go through us first. The humans cheered, their fear melting into courage. They stood shoulder to shoulder, forming a wall between the invaders and the alien they had once feared. From above, the alien commander spoke again, his tone full of disbelief. "You defend him? A being who once ruled through blood?" Eli answered fiercely, "He's not that man anymore. He's one of us." Zorak closed his eyes for a moment. He felt something stir deep within, something more powerful than any weapon he had ever commanded. Hope. He turned to the crowd. "I once led armies," he said, his voice rising, "but today I lead hearts." "Do you know what that means?" Mia's small voice called out. "It means you're a hero." Zorak smiled softly. "No, child. It means I finally understand what strength truly is." The alien fortress above began to charge its main cannon. A beam of blue light formed under its hull, bright enough to turn night into day. Zorak looked up. "I cannot let them destroy this place," he said. He raised his hand, the command seal glowing once again. His entire body pulsed with light, brighter and brighter until Eli had to shield his eyes. "Zorak, stop," Eli shouted. "It's killing you." Zorak smiled. "Then let me die protecting life, not destroying it." He sent a wave of pure energy skyward. The beam struck the fortress, shaking the heavens. The alien ships scattered as the energy spread across the fleet, disabling their weapons but leaving the ships intact. No explosions, no fire, just silence and light. When the glow faded, the fortress hung motionless. Then slowly it began to retreat. The humans gasped. They had just witnessed something beyond imagination. Zorak had saved them all, without taking a single life. But as the ships vanished into the dark sky, Zorak fell to his knees. His eyes dimmed, his body trembling. Eli caught him before he hit the ground. "Zorak! Stay with me." The alien smiled weakly. "Your people, they fight with their hearts. Never lose that." Eli's voice broke. "You can't leave us now. You're part of this town." Zorak placed a glowing hand over Eli's chest. "Then I will always be here," he whispered, "in the hearts of those who choose kindness over fear." His light flickered. The glow faded, but his smile remained peaceful, like someone who had finally found what he'd been searching for all along. The humans around him fell silent. The world seemed to stop. Then slowly the wind picked up, carrying his last words like a song through the trees. "Strength without compassion is hollow, but compassion, that is the power that shapes stars." Eli held him close, tears streaming down his face. Above them the clouds parted, and for a brief moment, a single bright light shot across the sky like a spirit returning home. Zorak, the alien who came seeking peace, had made his final stand. The battlefield was silent. The night air was cold and smoke from the ship still hung above the trees. The ground where Commander Zorak had stood was now lit only by the faint glow of his fallen body. The humans surrounded him, soldiers, farmers, children, all frozen in disbelief. The alien who had once commanded galaxies now lay in the dirt of a small human town, peaceful and still. Eli knelt beside him, holding Zorak's head in his lap. "Stay with me," he whispered desperately. "You saved us, Zorak. Please don't go." Zorak's glowing eyes flickered weakly. "Eli." His voice was soft but steady. "Look at them." Eli turned. Around them, people stood holding hands, united. Humans who had once been strangers, now one. Zorak smiled faintly. This is why I came." Tears ran down Eli's face. "You did more than come. You gave us hope." Zorak's breath grew slower. "Hope," he repeated, his tone almost like a whisper to the stars. "It's the only weapon that never fails." From above, the alien fleet lingered silently, watching. They had seen the impossible, an army stopped by peace, not by war. Their commanders were speechless. No one had ever witnessed such defiance done with mercy. Eli noticed the blue command seal still faintly glowing on Zorak's palm. "What can we do?" "How do we help you?" Zorak turned his head slightly toward him. "Help me?" he murmured. "You already have." A soft smile crossed his face. "When I arrived here, I thought humans were weak. Now I see you are the strongest species I've ever met." "Why?" Eli asked. Zorak's voice trembled but carried warmth. "Because you fight for love, not conquest. You protect even those who wrong you. You heal instead of destroy. That is true power." The people around him listened in silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. "Tell them," Zorak continued, his eyes dimming. "Tell your children and your children's children. Compassion is worth more than 1,000 victories. Promise me that. Eli gripped his hand. I promise. Zorak closed his eyes for a moment, exhaling slowly. Good. Then my story will not die. Just then a soft blue light surrounded his body. The alien fleet above responded instantly. Their ships began to glow in the same hue, as if bowing in silent farewell. Across the stars, millions of his former soldiers received the same signal, the last command of their once great leader. On screens across the galaxy, the message appeared, Do not fear peace. Do not mock kindness. The strongest hearts are those that choose mercy. The word spread like a wave of light, carried through every corner of the Empire. Many wept, some dropped their weapons. For the first time in generations, silence filled their war rooms. Back on Earth, Eli looked down. He's gone, he whispered, but Mia, standing beside him, shook her head. No, he's not gone, she said softly.
He just went home, she pointed upward.
Among the retreating ships, one bright streak of blue light rose higher and higher into the stars, like a soul returning to its place among them. Eli closed his eyes. Goodbye, my friend. Days turned into weeks. News of Zorak's sacrifice spread beyond Earth. He became a symbol of peace, a legend known as the general who chose humanity. The alien empire, once ruled by fear, began to change. The High Command was dissolved, and a new council was formed, one that honored Zorak's words. They declared the day of his passing as the Day of Humanity, a time for all species to remember compassion. Back in Maple Ridge, Zorak's cabin was turned into a small memorial. People visited from all over the world, humans and aliens alike. Some came to pray, others to learn, and many simply to feel the quiet peace that Zorak had loved so much. Eli often sat on the porch at sunset, where his friend used to watch the horizon. He still half expected to hear that calm voice say, Peace suits you, Eli. One evening, Mia placed a small carved stone beside Zorak's chair. It had simple words scratched into it. He came for peace and found it among us. Eli smiled sadly. He'd like that, he said. That night, as stars filled the sky, something strange happened. A faint hum echoed from Zorak's memory cube, which Eli had kept safe. It activated on its own, projecting one final image into the air. Zorak, standing tall, smiling faintly, looking at the horizon. Then his recorded voice spoke. If you are hearing this, it means I've returned to the stars. Do not mourn me. Celebrate what you already are, you humans. You remind the universe of what it means to live. Protect that flame. The recording faded. Silence followed, but not sadness, just calm. Eli looked at the stars. We'll protect it, Commander, he whispered. I swear it. The wind blew gently through the trees, as if carrying Zorak's spirit across the hills. And far above, somewhere beyond human eyes, a single blue star flickered brighter than the rest, as if watching over the world he had once chosen to call home. Years passed after Commander Zorak's final stand. The town of Maple Ridge changed, but the memory of the silver-skinned alien never faded. Where his wooden cabin once stood, now stood a peace memorial garden built by both humans and aliens together. The grass was green, the air calm, and in the middle stood a tall silver statue of Zorak, his hand raised gently toward the sky, as if blessing both Earth and the stars above. Every year, on the same date he sacrificed himself. Thousands gathered there. Children carried flowers. Elders spoke his name with respect, and visitors from other planets came to see the place where the mightiest general in the galaxy had chosen peace over power. They called it the Day of Humanity, a celebration not of war, but of compassion. Eli, now older with gray in his beard, often sat quietly under the tree near the statue. He still remembered Zorak's calm voice, his small smile, and the light in his eyes when he spoke of peace. Mia, now grown and studying interstellar relations, joined him one evening. She wore a small pendant that glowed faintly blue, the same color as Zorak's eyes. Dad, she said softly, the Galactic Council invited me to speak tomorrow. They want me to share what Earth learned from Zorak. Eli smiled proudly. Then tell them the truth, he said. Tell them he didn't come to teach us anything. He came to remind us what we already had. Mia nodded, looking up at the statue. I'll tell them his story, how he came from the stars searching for peace and found it in the hearts of simple people. Eli chuckled softly. Simple, huh? Maybe. but he made us believe that kindness could change the galaxy. That night the town glowed with lanterns. Children ran laughing around the garden, their laughter echoing through the air. Among them were small alien children, different shapes, colors, and faces, all playing together as if they'd always belonged. No fear, no barriers, just life. Far above, alien ships peacefully orbited Earth. They were not fleets of war anymore, but vessels of trade, exploration, and learning. Many carried the emblem of Zorak, a silver hand holding a small blue flame, the symbol of compassion and strength united. Mia traveled often between worlds as an ambassador. Wherever she went, people spoke Zorak's name with reverence. Entire planets had built schools and temples in his honor. Some called him the peacemaker of the stars. Others called him the forgotten general who remembered humanity. One day, during a grand ceremony at the Galactic Council, Mia stood before leaders of hundreds of species. Behind her hung a great banner with Zorak's face and his words engraved in shining letters. Power fades. Compassion endures. She took a deep breath and began to speak. Many of you knew Zorak as a warrior, she said. But here on Earth, we knew him as a friend. He didn't conquer us, he healed us. He didn't build monuments, he built trust. And though he came from a world of war, he taught us that true victory is the ability to forgive. The hall fell silent. Even the most hardened leaders lowered their heads. Mia continued. Zorak's last words were not orders, they were hope. Hope that every world, every race, every being can choose compassion over cruelty. He believed we could build a galaxy where no child sleeps in fear, and no world burns for power. When she finished, there was silence, then thunderous applause. Many alien leaders wiped tears from their eyes. It was the first time in history that the Galactic Council agreed on one thing unanimously: to establish the Alliance of Harmony, a union built not on weapons but on understanding. Back on Earth, Eli watched the broadcast from his home. When the crowd on screen began to cheer, he smiled proudly. "You did it, Mia," he whispered. "You made him proud." He walked to the garden that night, the stars bright above him. He placed his hand on the statue's cold metal surface. "You see, old friend," he said softly. They finally listened. As he turned to leave, a gentle wind rustled the trees. The flowers near the statue began to glow faintly blue, just like the color of Zorak's energy. Eli froze, eyes wide. The light shimmered for a few seconds, forming the faint outline of a tall figure. Zorak's spirit smiling quietly. Eli's eyes filled with tears. "You're still watching, aren't you?" The glowing form nodded once before fading into the starlight. Eli whispered, "Thank you for everything." The next morning, a new star appeared in the sky. Astronomers called it the Zorak star. It pulsed gently, always visible above Earth. Many believed it was a sign that his spirit watched over them still, a guardian of peace. Years later, long after Eli passed, Mia's own children would visit the garden. They would point to the statue and the bright blue star above it. "Who was he, Mama?" they would ask, and Mia would smile and tell them, "He was the alien who taught the universe how to be human." In every corner of the galaxy, from deserts of alien worlds to the green hills of Earth, his name remained alive not as a conqueror but as a symbol. Commander Zorak, the warrior who laid down his arms, became eternal proof that even the coldest heart can learn to love, and even the mightiest empire can kneel before compassion. The stars above seemed to whisper his final promise. Peace is not found, it is created, and thus, the legacy of the alien who chose Earth lived on forever, written not in stone or history, but in the hearts of all who believed in kindness.